Can anyone stop Arsenal? Is Manchester City finished without Guardiola? And is Manchester United actually back? This Premier League season has no obvious answer, and that is exactly what makes it the most interesting in years. We analyze the odds, the analysts, the transfer activity, the managerial changes, and the factors that will define the title race to give you the honest picture of what each of the Big Six is actually fighting for in 2026-27. Who is genuinely in the title race? Who is fighting for a top 4 finish? And for whom would European football alone be a success? 6 clubs, 6 different stories. Let's break it down. Let's start at the bottom of the Big Six, and for Tottenham supporters, that sentence alone says everything about where the club has arrived. 2 consecutive 17th place finishes, 2 seasons of genuine relegation fear, a dressing room that had stopped caring, a fan base that had stopped believing. Roberto De Zerbi arrived in the final weeks of last season and kept them up, barely on the final day, through sheer force of personality and by doing something the previous management had failed to do entirely, making the players feel that someone actually gave a damn. Now he has had a full summer, and Tottenham have responded in a way nobody anticipated. Sandro Tonali from Newcastle, £100 million, a new club record. Matheus Fernandes from West Ham, $85 million, briefly the record before Tonali arrived 4 days later. Jan-Paul van Hecke from Brighton, Andy Robertson and Marcos Senesi on free transfers. This is not a Tottenham that is patching holes. This is a Tottenham that is rebuilding from the foundation. The center-back pairing of Senesi and Van Hecke both led the Premier League last season in line-breaking passes from defense. They do not just defend, they start attacks. Tonali gives De Zerbi a genuine engine in midfield, aggressive, technical, capable of covering enormous ground. The Italian wanted to work with De Zerbi personally. That detail matters. Fernandes provides creativity and tempo from the 8 role. The system De Zerbi implemented in those final weeks was immediately recognizable. High intensity, press, and possess, a 4-3-3 that demands total commitment from every player at every moment. The players responded, they cared again. James Maddison is back from injury, and a fit Maddison as a creative number 10 is potentially devastating. Kudus on the flank offers directness and unpredictability, but now the concerns, and they are real. The biggest concern is De Zerbi himself. His work at Brighton was exceptional, but Brighton is a club without pressure. No relegation fears, no historic expectations, no fan base demanding immediate results. Tottenham is a different environment entirely. How a manager responds when results turn and the crowd turns, that is the question his time in North London still needs to answer. The second is squad depth. Tonali, Maddison, Kudus, if 2 of those 3 miss significant time, the options behind them become noticeably thinner. Xavi Simons signed under Thomas Frank. He was immediately transformed under De Zerbi, a goal and an assist in his second match under the Italian. Then came the ACL injury in April, 9 months out. He is expected back around January and may not even make the initial 25-man squad due to foreign player limits. Analysts rate Tottenham's actual probability of winning the title this season at under 1%. Title is not the conversation, but top 6, a return to European football after 2 years of domestic survival, that is absolutely achievable, and given where Tottenham were 6 months ago, it would represent a genuine transformation. De Zerbi turned Brighton into a consistent European qualifier. If he can do the same here with bigger resources, a better squad, and a city that actually cares, the ceiling is significantly higher than anyone outside N17 is currently predicting. For Tottenham in 2026-27, stop talking about relegation, start talking about Europe. Everything beyond that is a bonus. Chelsea finished 10th last season. 10th, a club that won the Champions League in 2021 and the Premier League in 2017. No European football this season for the first time in years. 2 managers sacked before Christmas and a squad so bloated that analysts described it as the most overstaffed roster the Premier League has ever seen. And yet, this might be the most interesting club to watch in 2026-27 because of one name. Xabi Alonso, the man who ended Bayern Munich's decade-long Bundesliga stranglehold with Bayer Leverkusen, the man who took an unbeaten Leverkusen side through an entire domestic season, the man Real Madrid appointed to rebuild their project before parting ways by mutual consent after 7 months, in circumstances most observers felt were unfair to the manager. Chelsea moved quickly, a 4-year contract, full control as manager, not head coach, a distinction the club made deliberately. Because that is the thing about Chelsea. The individual talent is not the problem. Cole Palmer is one of the best attacking players in England. Caicedo in midfield is among the most complete holding players in the Premier League. Enzo Fernandez, Marc Guiu, the squad is full of players who can genuinely hurt teams on their best day. And then there's Joao Pedro, 20 goals in all competitions last season, named Chelsea's Player of the Year in a team that finished 10th, a genuine striker who leads the line, holds the ball, and creates space for those around him. That is a foundation most clubs in this situation would not have. The problem has always been coherence direction, a system that makes the collection work together rather than as a series of individual performances. That is precisely what Alonso provides. The summer has already brought significant movement. Andre Santos left for Manchester United for around £50 million. Cucurella moved to Real Madrid. In came Maxence Lacroix from Crystal Palace for £52 million. A composed, ball-playing centre-back who suits Alonso's build-from-the-back approach perfectly. Morgan Rogers arrived to add creativity in the middle. Valentin Barco from Strasbourg as a left-back option. And then in a move that surprised almost everyone, Chelsea added 2 veterans specifically for leadership and experience. Danny Welbeck from Brighton and Jordan Henderson from Brentford. Both are 35. Neither is expected to start every week. Alonso decided the squad needed senior figures who have won things and know how to hold a dressing room together. It is a deliberate shift from the Chelsea policy of only signing young players. The absence of European football this season, which looked catastrophic when the final table was confirmed, now looks like it could actually help. Analysts rank Chelsea 5th among the big 6 for title probability. That feels about right. They are not yet the finished article. The system is new. The squad management is a work in progress. And without European football to show for it, even a good season will feel incomplete to a fan base that expects more. But here's the honest case. If Alonso gets 6 months to implement his ideas without the pressure of a European campaign, and Palmer, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez stay fit and motivated, this team could look completely different by February. The ceiling under Alonso is significantly higher than where Chelsea currently sit. The question is simply how long it takes to reach it. Target for 2026-27, top 4. Return to the Champions League. Everything Alonso was hired to fix. Liverpool won the Premier League in 2024-25. A year later, 5th place, 53 goals conceded, 12 defeats, Arne Slot sacked Mohamed Salah gone, and a new manager arriving with a completely different set of principles. That is a lot of change in 12 months. Andoni Iraola, the man who took Bournemouth from relegation candidates to European football in 3 seasons, who built a team so organized, so relentless in their pressing, so difficult to play against that they finished with an 18-match unbeaten run to end last season. The philosophy is immediately recognizable to any Liverpool fan who lived through the Klopp years. High-intensity, aggressive pressing from the front. Vertical football, a style described by those who have worked with Iraola as rock and roll football, high energy, high risk, high reward. The kind of football that made Liverpool one of the most exciting teams in Europe between 2018 and 22. The question is whether this Liverpool squad can actually sustain it. Preseason has already provided a warning. Liverpool led Leeds 2-0, then lost 4-2. They led Monaco before collapsing to a 3-2 defeat. Iraola was candid afterwards. He said the squad cannot yet sustain the intensity his system demands for 90 minutes. These are preseason results, they matter less than people say. But the pattern was real. The good news is that the core is still strong. Virgil van Dijk remains one of the best center backs in the Premier League. Ronald Araújo has arrived on loan from Barcelona, experienced, athletic, exactly the kind of player Iraola needs alongside him. Gravenberch and Mac Allister, when they are at their levels from the title-winning season, are among the best midfield partnerships in England. Florian Wirtz, criticized heavily last season, has a work rate off the ball that suits Iraola's pressing demands perfectly. But there are genuine problems too. Salah is gone, and he was not just a player, he was a reference point for every attack Liverpool built. Finding 30 to 40 goal involvements worth of production from elsewhere is not a simple task. Bradley Barcola remains a primary target, but the deal is not done. Without a direct replacement of that quality, Liverpool's attack depends on everything clicking simultaneously. Wirtz, Isak, the midfield, all firing at once. The midfield also has questions. Gravenberch and Mac Allister were poor last season by their own standards. Both are capable of a significant improvement, but that is not the same as guaranteeing one. The club reportedly considered signing a defensive midfielder and moved on. That decision may come back to haunt them. And then there's the bigger picture. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is part of a consortium closing in on a 30% stake in the club. A potential ownership change at a club simultaneously rebuilding under a new manager creates instability that is very difficult to control. Analysts place Liverpool 4th among the big 6 for title probability. That feels about right. If Iraola gets his pressing system fully implemented, if Wirtz rediscovers his Leverkusen form, if the Salah replacement arrives, Liverpool could genuinely challenge. If even one of those things does not happen, a top 4 finish will be the realistic ceiling. The Klopp era is over. The Slot era lasted 2 seasons, 1 title, 1 collapse. Now it is Iraola's turn. Liverpool are not rebuilding, they are restarting. And how quickly the restart takes hold will define whether this season is remembered as a transition or a return. Let's be honest about where Manchester United were 8 months ago, 7th in the table, Ruben Amorim sacked after a conflict with the board over his job title, a dressing room that had lost confidence in the manager, and a fan base that had lost confidence in the club. Then Michael Carrick walked in and everything changed. 39 points from 17 matches. Nobody in England took more over the same period. 12 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats. A points per game rate that, had it been sustained across 38 matches, would have won the league. 3rd place Champions League football secured with 3 games to spare, and a club that went from crisis to optimism in the space of 4 months. Carrick was given the job permanently on a contract until 2028, and this summer he has been able to build for the first time. The signings are logical and specific. Andre Santos from Chelsea, £48 million. A player who wins the ball, advances it quickly, and brings a physicality to United's midfield that was visibly missing. Youri Tielemans from Aston Villa, £35 million. The man who sees the pass between the lines before anyone else on the pitch has spotted the space. The midfielder who specifically solves United's biggest tactical problem, breaking down teams who sit deep and defend. The logic of the trio is clear. Santos wins the ball. Tielemans moves it into dangerous areas. Bruno Fernandes creates the chance. Each player has a defined role. Nobody is being asked to do something that doesn't suit them. That clarity, after years of United midfielders operating in roles they were never built for, is the most important change Carrick has made. Bruno himself is entering the final year of his contract. He set a new Premier League assist record last season, 21, with a team that spent half the campaign in crisis. If he leaves at the end of this year, United lose their most important creative player. Extending him is the single most urgent piece of business at the club. The attack has quality. Brian Mbeumo and Benjamin Sesko both finished with 11 league goals last season, top scorers at the club. Mbeumo is still finding his ceiling under Carrick. Sesko provides the physical option, direct, powerful, capable of leading the line in the biggest matches. Haaland has moved on to Napoli, clearing space and wages for better options. Goalkeeper Tielemans has been one of United's smartest acquisitions in years. Commanding, composed, already trusted by the fan base. And then there is Xabi Alonso. 21 years old, academy product, one of the most complete young midfielders in England. Under Carrick, he has found a structure that suits him. Pressing triggers, positional discipline, the freedom to carry the ball forward when the moment is right. When Manu plays well, United's entire midfield works better. He is the player who connects everything. But the concerns are real. Ugarte suffered an ACL injury on World Cup duty and will miss most of this season. Santos and Tielemans bring quality on the ball. Neither is primarily a destroyer. And then there is Europe. United have not played Champions League football since 2023-24. 2 years without the midweek flights, the squad rotation, the fatigue that comes with 20 extra matches. Adding all of that back while trying to sustain a title challenge is a fundamentally different problem to the one Carrick solved in 17 matches last January. RotoWire analysts put it directly. United played like a top 2 team down the stretch last season, but they did so with a comparatively light schedule. Add Champions League football and the workload looks completely different. Third place is the minimum expectation. The title, without a significant regression from Arsenal and City, is probably a step too far this season. But Manchester United under Carrick are no longer a club simply trying to stay in the top 4. They are a club trying to close the gap to the very top. That, at Old Trafford, is a sentence that hasn't been written with genuine belief behind it for a very long time. 10 years, 20 trophies, a first ever Champions League, 4 consecutive Premier League titles, a historic treble, and then in May 2026, Pep Guardiola announced he was leaving Manchester City. His statement to the fans was brief. Don't ask me the reasons I'm leaving. There is no reason, but deep inside, I know it's my time. The end of the most dominant managerial reign in English football history. The club's answer is Enzo Maresca, former Chelsea manager, a coach who built one of the most attractive sides in recent championship history at Leicester and then left Stamford Bridge after falling out with the ownership group. That last detail matters. Maresca is talented. He is also known for an uncompromising management style that has a history of creating friction in difficult environments. The logic of the appointment is clear. Guardiola himself helped shape Maresca as a coach. The ideas are similar, possession-based, positional, high-pressing. The transition should be smoother in terms of football philosophy than it would be with a completely different kind of manager. The players already understand the language. But here is the uncomfortable truth that surrounds this appointment. When Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United in 2013, the club had the squad, the infrastructure, and the resources to continue winning. They did not. They haven't won the league since. The squad still has extraordinary quality. Erling Haaland leads the line, 27 league goals last season, 38 in all competitions. As long as Haaland is at the club, City have the most dangerous striker in the division. Kevin De Bruyne has departed, but his replacement has already arrived. Elliot Anderson signed from Nottingham Forest for £116 million on a 5-year deal. At the time of the agreement, it was a British transfer record, since surpassed by Morgan Rogers' move to Chelsea. Anderson brings ball carrying, pressing range, and dual strength, exactly what City needed after Bernardo Silva's exit. Jeremy Doku provides pace and unpredictability on the left. Mark Gohi has arrived to strengthen the center-back position. John Stones has left, Rodri has left, Bernardo Silva has left. The 3 players Guardiola used as hybrid midfield defensive instruments in his most tactically sophisticated work are gone. Rebuilding that specific dimension of the squad is Maresca's most difficult structural challenge. And then there's the preseason disruption. 6 first-team players were involved deep into the World Cup, including Haaland and Doku. FIFPro guidelines recommend 4 weeks between seasons. Analysts place City second in the Big Six for title probability. The quality is there. The squad depth, even after the summer departures, remains better than almost any other English club. Haaland alone makes them a genuine contender. But the question hanging over everything is not about players. It is about whether a club built so completely around one manager's genius can continue to win at the same level when that manager leaves. Knows the answer yet. Guardiola's City won because of how they played, how they thought, how they prepared. Maresca understands all of that in theory. Delivering it in a league where Arsenal are champions, United are improving, and everyone else is motivated by the chance to prove the era is finally over. That is a completely different challenge. City can win the title. Whether they will is the most genuinely open question in English football right now. Arsenal are Premier League champions for the first time in 22 years. That sentence, after 3 consecutive runners-up finishes, after years of Arteta's project being questioned, after an entire fan base that had been told to be patient for so long that patience itself became a punchline, finally means something. But the 2026-27 season begins with a different question. Not can Arsenal win it, can they defend it? The Champions League final made that point clearly. Arsenal reached the showpiece for the first time in the club's history and lost to PSG on penalties. A penalty shootout defeat in the biggest game in club history. The squad that experienced that moment and survived it arrives at this season with something to prove that goes beyond the Premier League. Arteta has not made wholesale changes. He does not need to. The core is exceptional. William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes remain arguably the best center-back partnership in the Premier League. Declan Rice is the spine of everything. 24 goals from set pieces last season, 60 matches played through pain. Bukayo Saka remains one of the 2 or 3 best attacking players in England. Martin Odegaard is fit and motivated after an injury-interrupted campaign last year. David Raya in goal has now been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League for 2 consecutive seasons. The summer business has been surgical. Bruno Guimarães has arrived from Newcastle for £75 million. Adding the midfield depth and creative quality in possession that Arsenal needed to become less reliant on set pieces for their goals. Piero Hincapié, who joined on loan last season, has been signed permanently for $34.5 million. Christos Tzolis from Club Brugge for $34 million, 22 goals last season in Belgium, arriving to replace Trossard, who has departed. Ilan Meslier on a free from Leeds as goalkeeping depth behind Riot. The concern Arteta has identified publicly is real. Arsenal scored 19 fewer open play goals than Manchester City last season. The title was won through set pieces, defensive solidity, and collective discipline against the best teams in the Champions League, and PSG proved this. That alone is not sufficient. Guimarães directly addresses that gap. He is one of the Premier League's best midfielders in positional attacks, finding passes through pressure, creating from deeper positions, giving Arteta a different tool in the build-up. Analysts rank Arsenal first among the Big Six for title probability. The only club in the division with continuity of manager, continuity of system, and continuity of the same core players who already know what it takes to win the league. In a season where City have a new manager, Liverpool have a new manager, Chelsea have a new manager, and United are still building. That stability is not a small advantage, it is potentially decisive. The hardest thing in football is not winning the title. It is doing it again the year after. Arsenal know that, Arteta knows that, the squad knows that. The question is whether knowing it is enough. 6 clubs, 6 different missions, 1 trophy. Who do you think wins the Premier League in 2026-27, and who surprises everyone? Drop your predictions in the comments and subscribe because we will be covering every twist of this title race from the very first weekend.